What is up, my fellow DGens? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of Sports Betting 101. What is up, folks? I am your host, as always, Sebastian Furon, aka the DGen Doc, and I'm back. We've made it. Week number 6 is here. That is right. I can't believe episode 6 is flying by, baby. Again, Sports Betting 101. Someone who's jumping on, or hey, what the hell is Sports Betting 101? Well, it is an educational series that walks you through the basics of sports betting to give you a chance to have success when it comes to sports betting. And when we talk about success, we're talking about making money, of course. Sports betting is something that is exploding in popularity, absolutely becoming super popular, especially over these past 2-3 years. More states are getting legalized. Over 3/4 of the United States, you can legally place a bet in the US, which is absolutely awesome. But that means there's a lot of people just jumping into it, not really knowing what the hell they're getting into. And when you do something like that with sports betting, that can directly lose to you losing your hard-earned money. And that is the whole premise of this. We work hard for our money. We don't want to give it right back to Vegas or right back to the sports books. I promise you, and if you don't believe me, I'll give you some numbers a little bit later on. They have enough money. They don't need yours and mine. So it's our jobs to learn the basics so we have a fighting chance against these powerhouses. And it's possible. Look, I'm pro sports betting. I enjoy sports betting. I do it. I've been doing it for several years. But you have to master the basics. You have to be aware of what you're doing, because if you stumble into it, you will find yourself in a deep hole and down keep a couple hundred, maybe a few $1,000s. But all right, let's do a quick little recap here. So this is episode 6. So we started off with our intro. I told you about, introduce the sports betting thing as far as why is it getting so popular? What is going on with this? Why am I seeing all these ads for it? Is it something I should get into? This is really targeted for those people that there's kind of 3 subgroups, right? So the first subgroup is the people who are kind of interested. Maybe you see the ads of Kevin Hart or Vanessa Hudgens or whoever the hell they got on trying to get you to talk about sports betting, right? They're trying to figure out, hey, you should sports bet, Tom Brady, whoever the hell it is. So, people who are interested, but, maybe a little skeptical, right? Perfect for you. Perfect to get an intro to first learn about it. That way you don't just go in there and start blowing money. It's also for people who are pretty brand new to betting, right? Maybe you jumped into it a little bit, maybe this year, or maybe you're North Carolina and you just got into March Madness and you started jumping into it and it's fun, but you realize quickly, like, hey, once I burn through those bonus bets, like, this is now all my money. So I should probably figure out what the hell I'm doing. Or maybe you've been sports betting for a little bit and you realize, like, hey, I'm not where I want to be, whether I'm not having as much fun as I want, because no one likes losing money. I can promise you that. That's not fun. Or, maybe I'm not making as much profit as I think I should. Maybe I want to just recheck the systems a little bit, take some time in the off season if you're a football guy like myself. And that's what this is for. Sports Betting 101, it is to teach you the basics, because I promise you, one of the few things that separates the quote unquote pros from the amateurs or the Joes is mastering and knowing the basics. It can be as simple as that. And really, I feel like that is across a lot of professions, a lot of different hobbies. You got to know the basics first and you have to master them. And that's what we're all about here. So we went through the intro episode when we kind of introduced, I talked about the big 3 enemies when it comes to sports betting. Then we went back and we talked about the basics, right? So we went through, what's a money line? What's a spread bet? What's an over-under? Like your very basic bets. This is, again, designed for the beginner to moderate, beginner to novice bettor, someone who is looking to get the basics. But I promise you, don't feel bad about that, because there's so many people that are just skip this step and just think, oh, I know sports, I can just immediately get into it. And yeah, ask them to look at their accountability, or ask them to look at their, honestly, the sad part is they probably don't even know if they're winning or losing bettor. And I'd be willing to bet they're losing bettor. But don't just take my word for it. We'll go ahead and look at some stats a little bit later on. But we walked through the basics in episode 2. Episode 3 was about dealing with losing. One of the biggest enemies when it comes to sports betting is yourself. And that is because when we get too much into betting with emotion, we typically don't make the best decisions. You can It's really when you're trying to make decisions based on impulse, purely based on emotion, especially when it comes to financial decisions, that is typically always a wrong answer. And it's no different when it comes to sports betting. Then episode 4 was about bankroll management. So about how you manage your bankroll. That is just the amount of money that you have, the amount of money you've budgeted or set aside for your sports gambling. How do you manage that and not just go all in every day? Because I promise you that is not a good strategy at all in any way. And anyone who tells you, whether they're a capper or someone online that says they're doing 100-unit mega whale max, bullshit. Excuse my French, but that is just one of the reasons I'm doing this, folks, is because it fires me up when people just absolutely spew nonsense for their own sole purpose of social media gain or whatever monetary gain. So that is, again, let me take a step back. Why am I doing this? I talked about this in the intro episode, but really I'm trying to help people not have to make some of the same mistakes that I had to find myself making, or that any beginning novice bettor makes, right? You kind of have to go through that learning curve and those mistakes. And when we talk about sports betting, mistakes directly lead to you losing money. I don't want anybody to lose unnecessary money. Sports betting, you're going to deal with losses anyway. That's just the nature of the game. But if we can cut out the silly, stupid mistakes that you make over and over again, that is so common with new bettors, then that's what I'm here for, folks. Episode 5, we talked about accountability. We talked about taking ownership of your bets. At the end of the day, this is your money. You need to understand if you're the one that's pressing that bet, whether you got advice from somebody on social media, whether you got advice from someone you pay for, whether you got advice from your buddy, you are the one making that bet. Is your money, so you need to take ownership. And part 2 of that is you got to track your bets. You can't improve on something if you have no idea where you're at or where you're currently standing. You have to track your bets. There's so many apps out there that make this so easy. You really have no excuse not to. So if any of that other topics interest you and you haven't checked those out, go ahead, and I encourage you to go ahead and check out all those episodes. Again, evergreen to the point where this is always going to be relevant, right? If you're ever into sports betting, no matter when you see this, whether you see this tomorrow, whether you see this a year from now, this is still relevant as far as sports betting. There are main rules and principles you have to learn if you want any shot at success. But all right, enough about the past. We're on to the future. Episode 6, baby. And today we are talking about transparency. I feel like it's that whole, whatever, the SpongeBob thing where he just kind of does that. Transparency. And this is a absolutely huge thing. I mean, honestly, the lack of transparency that is just diseasing and kind of overflowing in the sports gambling space is a huge reason why I wanted to kind of take on this project, and really thought that there was a need to kind of shed some light, because there's some shady shit going on. Now we're going to talk about transparency in 3 different levels, right? So the 3 levels of transparency. We're going to talk about transparency from the angle of Vegas and kind of, what we're up against and the odds that we're up against, right? We're going to talk about transparency in the level of sports cappers. And sports cappers, for those that don't know, it's people that sell picks, that pay, whether you pay them through a Discord or whether you pay them through a service, that, they feel like they're so above you and so superior at this that you should pay them for even the privilege of listening to their knowledge and their bets that may or may not win you bets, right? So trust me, we got a whole episode coming on those motherfuckers. So I apologize. It's a little late. The whiskey's flowing. Sorry for cursing. Try to keep it family friendly here, but you can't gamble unless you're over 21 anyway, so you should probably have heard this by now. But odds against us, the cappers, and then the sports books themselves. And really, those are your 3 kind of levels we're going to talk about transparency. It's going to make a lot more sense as we start to get into it. So let's just go ahead and get into it. All right, first up, we have to understand when it comes to sports betting, we are up against the house, right? That is not just a term like, oh, you're up against the house. Like, you are at a disadvantage, right? There's something called a VIG that this in the sports books that essentially is saying in layman's terms that the sports books has a built-in edge. And the way that they do this is going back to episode 2 with the basics, typically in the most basic format, when you have bets, it will be at minus 110. So when we say those are odds, right? So plus 100 is even money. So I bet 10 and I win $10. Typically, what happens is it's minus 110. So you bet 10 to win 910, right? So you're not winning you're not doubling up your money. And because of that, it seems small, like 90 cents in a $10 bet or $9 in a $100 bet. It seems small, but it adds up. And what that means is that in order to be a profitable sports bettor, you have to be in order to just break even, to just be a net zero sports bettor, you have to be hitting your bets at 52.4%, right? So hitting your bets half the time, like, if we were to flip a coin and you were just to randomly pick and just be at 50% right down the middle, you would be a losing sports bettor. You would net over time, you would be have at a loss, right? Not a huge loss. Well, I mean, it really depends on how much you're putting in, what numbers you're throwing at it, but you would be at a loss. You have to get a 52.4% hit rate or a win rate to even break zero. That is because we are up against the house. Vegas does not look like Vegas from charity and handouts. It is from money, hard-earned money from people like you and me. I don't know what the fuck kind of asset that was, but people like you and me. And that's why I'm doing this, because they don't need any more money. They're going to get it from all these Joe Schmoes out there. They're going to continue to keep making this money. So why don't we break that cycle? Why don't we take some of their fucking money? All right? How about that? So we're already up against the house. Now, if you don't believe me, if it doesn't tell you that Vegas is and when I speak about Vegas, I'm really talking about like sports books in general. Vegas is just that like centerpiece kind of focal point that it's really easy to point the finger at. Don't get me wrong, I love Vegas. I love going to Vegas. It's a good time as long as you can, know what you're doing, know what you're getting into. It definitely is expensive, set your budgets and all that stuff, but Vegas is the enemy when we come to the sports books, right? The sports books are the enemy. That is who we're taking money from. And there's got to be no love lost. And I'm going to help. I mean, it really shouldn't be that hard, but I'll help you guys paint that picture of why you should be wanting a gun for the sports books money, because they got enough of it. This last year, in 2023, the sports books across the United States of America profited 10.9 billion with a B as in billion. No, B as in boy. They profited that much money. $10.9 billion in 1 year. Again, from people like you and me. Hard-earned money. People that probably had good intentions and then thought they were going to be winning and thought, hey, I know sports, I can get into this. But sports and sports betting are two entirely different beasts. You have to learn the basics. And that is $10.9 billion reasons why you should want to make it your goal to learn the basics. Whether you want a sports bet for fun, whether you want a sports bet as a side hustle to try and make some extra cash, I promise you, losing money and losing bets is not fun. Yes, the sweat and the rush of it, but when you find yourself consistently losing, it's not fun. And it can quickly become a problem if all you're doing is losing money. That's not really a hobby, that's a problem. All right. So if that doesn't make you mad enough, getting back to kind of the stats and the numbers. So I talked about 52.4% is that kind of magic number to break even. Now, how many people do you think actually hit that? Yeah, not a lot. Typically, they say around 2 to 5%. The average number that people give out is 3. I don't know if it just because it sounds like a good number, but it's in the middle of that 2.2 to 5%. So 2 to 5% of all sports bettors are profitable long term, right? So not like, hey, my buddy in North Carolina just opened up a book and he got some bonus bets and he hit a couple and he's up $500. Yeah, that doesn't count. Let's see about Billy Bob in a year from now, right? Something where he's actually been putting some value, right? And hey, maybe homie doesn't want to bet for much longer. He takes his profits and run. Good for him. That's awesome. We're talking about profitable sports bettors long term, right? Probably a year plus is what we'll put that mark at. So 2 to 5% of everybody who sports bets is winning. That's crazy. Like, just think about that. 95 to 98% of people who sports bet are going to lose money over the long term. And you want to know why? Is because 99.999% of those people are not going to take the time to learn the basics. They're not going to try to instill the discipline that it takes to give yourself a fighting chance. It is not that hard. Honestly, like you just have to learn some principles, set some boundaries, and live by it. And I promise you, it is going to be so much more fun to sports bet that way and know that you're not like you actually have a fighting chance. Because so many of these people don't even realize they just go in with blissful ignorance that, like, over the long term, you have no fucking shot against these books. No shot. So, again, master the basics, right? The sports books make enough money. They don't need yours and mine. So let's go ahead and learn these principles to have a fighting chance. All right. So, transparency point number 1. Vegas has enough money. The odds are stacked against you. It is statistically unlikely that if me or you just pick up sports betting, that we will be profitable long term. That's because the books don't want you to learn these things. They don't want you to learn these strategies. There's a reason why all they do is bring on celebrities and make it look like every time you go into a casino or every time you go into a sports book, you're going to come out as a winner and come out big. They're selling you a pipe dream. They're selling you these long shot parlays that have no shot of hitting statistically consistently over time because they just want your money. At the end of the day, that is it. That is why they don't want to promote stuff like this. They don't want to promote responsible gambling. They don't want to promote. I mean, legally, they kind of have to say the things, but they damn sure don't want to promote it. They'd rather have Vanessa Hudgens acting like she's a blackjack guru queen, and who knows, maybe she's a baller at blackjack. But having people like that in their commercials, man, it is just to sell. It is just to get you to get involved with it. And they're hoping that you don't do your due diligence and you just jump in because they know you'll lose money. But that's why we're learning, and that's why we're going to take the time to learn the basics to knock their heads off. All right, I'm a little fired up today. I apologize. Whiskey, going into Friday, hell of a time. All right, before we move on to transparency point number 2, I got to tell you about one of our sponsors here for IDP Guys, IDP Plus, and we're talking about TrophySmack, of course. What is one of the best things about winning a league? Yes, maybe you have a monetary value, maybe there's something like that, but no, it is the amount of shit you get to talk and that sense of pride and that kind of one-up you have on everybody else in your league. You know what's cooler than just being able to verbally talk? Being able to flaunt that with a trophy. Next year's draft, how nice would it be that you show up with a nice trophy right next to you to let everybody know, strike fear in their hearts that that's right, I'm the top dog. I'm the top man or woman at the top of this league. And if you want to get this chip, you got to go through me. Now, that's some dog shit right there. So, in a good way. That's DAWG shit, not DOG. Come on. We know that. But let me get back on topic. TrophySmack, they got everything you need for your fantasy leagues. They're going to be able to help you showcase that supremacy, get out that hardware. And I'm not just telling you to tell you guys. Of course, as always, man of the people, we're trying to give you something here. So use promo code IDP Guys, all caps, all one word, IDP Guys. And with a purchase of a belt or a trophy, we will get you a free ring. A free wing. Probably not a writing ring, but hey, maybe if you want to do that, whatever. But we will get you a free ring with the purchase of a belt or a trophy over on TrophySmack.com. So go ahead and check those guys out. And of course, make sure you use that promo code IDP Guys. All right, let's get back to it. So we are talking about now, again, transparency. That is the biggest thing. That is something that is so lacking in the sports gambling space. Ooh, I'm getting hyped up. I've got, I'm not sure if it's going to be next week it's going to be the week after, but coming up, I'm probably going to do one of my favorite episodes, probably the spiciest episode I'll do. It's going to be about capper red flags and just all the bullshit that you see in sports gambling, whether it's Twitter, social media, like all the garbage that you're going to see that's going to try to attract your attention, much like the sports books. And they have the same goal, to take your hard-earned money, and they'll give a damn if you win it back. So we're going to talk a little bit about, cappers today. Again, cappers is someone who's touting that they're a pro, they're a professional, that you pay them money, they're going to try to guarantee that they make you money, guarantee you profit. Remember one of our golden rules. There is no such thing as a lock when it comes to sports betting. That doesn't change just because somebody calls themselves a pro. So they can make all the promises they want. They could have hit, a big bet in the past. They could be rich from some other reason. That does not mean they can guarantee jack shit. So let's talk about one of the biggest things with transparency. One of the biggest problems that I see with people, especially online, man, social media, man, clout is a hell of a drug, as they say. But one of the things that, especially sports gambling's exploded, as you would expect. You see it on ESPN, you see it on SportsCenter now. ESPN didn't used to say a damn word about betting. It was like Voldemort, thou who should not be named. They didn't say shit in the last 5 years, and now they got segments all the time talking about long shot bets and it's all. Honestly, do not go to mainstream media for your bets. If you're going to ESPN, think about it. ESPN has a sports book. They have ESPN Bet. They don't want to give out winners. That is not the source you need to be going to. But that's a whole another thing. But getting back to it, transparency as far as when you have someone who is claiming that they are a professional, they are this or that, and they're trying to give out picks, and they're probably trying to get you to pay for them one way or another, right? You just got to be careful about units versus record, right? So what do I mean by this? Okay, so record's pretty easy to understand, right? It's, hey, I have 10 bets. I hit 8 of them. I lost 2 of them. So my record is 8-2. On the surface, pretty damn good. 80% hit rate. Super unsustainable, but a hot streak, right? Now, what really means something is units won. Again, we talked about in the basics episode, money lines, spread, over, under, right? Some of these money lines, some of these massive favorites, shit, there's favorites that are like minus 5,000. You would have to bet $5,000 to win $100. Okay? They are huge favorites. So you got to be careful about records because I see it all the time. These slimy sleazeballs people, because I don't want to just say guys, it's mostly guys, but I'm sure there's some females out there that do the same thing, but they will just tout their record, right? They will say, I'm 8-2, I'm 9 and whatever, I'm 10-1, I'm 150. They're going to make themselves look really good, right? You're going to be like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Ask them what their net profit of units is. How much money have they actually won? Because units is the universal language. Units directly relates to profit. Record does not. What do I mean by that? Okay, so if I bet 10 times, right? If I bet 10 times a huge favorite on the money line. So we're going to say this favorite is minus 1,000. Again, I have to bet $1,000 to win 100 because they're so favorite. Let's say I do that 10 times and I have my same record of 8-2, right? So 8 times I put $1,000 down and I won $100. So 8 times 100, $800. Boom. I have $800 of profit there. Okay, good. Now, I only lost 2 times, but both of those times I bet $1,000 and I got 0 in return, right? So now, from my 2 losses, I'm $2,000 in the hole. So I went from up 800 to now down, and so 2,000 minus 800, I'm $1,200 in the hole. You're 8-2. You have an 80% hit rate. You walk on water. You're the next thing, the best thing since sliced bread, but you're down $1,200. And that is where these motherfuckers can get sneaky. That is where cappers can go astray, right? That is where people will purposely manipulate things and have a lack of transparency to manipulate you. And it happens all the time. And if you don't believe me, let's look at an example. Because that, fires me up. Let me mellow out a little bit. Whiskey helps me mellow it out because. So let's take an example, and let's take a look at a bettor that's actually pretty well respected in the sports gambling space. Dude's been doing it for a long time, a lot longer than I have. Now, I definitely don't agree with his processes all the way, but so Steve Fezzik, I mean, I'm not gonna call him like a celebrity or anything. He's just pretty well known in the space, but he's also well known for doing shit like this. So he decided, this is last year, so March 17th, 2023, we can see at the tweet there, this is one of his tweets that he put out. He said that he's going to invest. It's always funny when people call it investing, in my opinion, but he's essentially going to gamble on Purdue money line minus 4,500. Again, let's talk about that, guys. You have to bet 45, you are risking $4,500 to win a measly $100 if Purdue wins. Again, you are betting $4,500. You are risking the loss of $4,500 for the potential gain of a measly $100. Spoiler alert, never do this. This is never a good idea. Ever, 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 ever. I don't care how many Steve Fezzik's tell you, never a good idea. But this man, he says 99% plus bet. Good value. There's good value there. Okay, Mr. Steve Fezzik. If that's true, okay. Let's see. What happened? Oh, you're telling me the 16 seed beat a 1 seed. That doesn't happen often. But it did. And it didn't even look like a fluke because Fairleigh Dickinson led at halftime and they clearly won the game. So don't even give me some bullshit that it was a fluke buzzer beater 3. No, the team just flat out beat Purdue from end to end. So let's talk about a recap for our guy Fezzik there. He risked, and so there's even, if you want to, I encourage you to look it up. It's actually kind of funny. You can look up, ESPN did an article. He bet $100,000 between two sports books, and one of the prices he even got a worse number. That was the better number. So he was even risking. So at one point he was risking like $40,000 to win like $800. It was ridiculous. The guy risked $100,000 to win less than $10,000. I mean, it's insane the fact that he would do this, right? He lost it all. He lost $100,000 for the potential to win less than $10,000. Like that is terrible, even possible return on your money. Like best case scenario, you just risked $100,000 for a couple $1,000. What are we doing? Again, he is big on claiming his record is very good because of shit like that. He gives out crazy favorites that, 95% of the time they win. But you don't win shit. Like, again, you have to risk so much money that if you have the same unit size like you should, you have the same 1 unit size, that's going to do nothing for you over the long term. Nothing. So again, that was just an example to show you record means nothing. Units won is everything, because units are your universal language, right? Units is just, units is relative. We all can have different unit sizes, and we should, based on financially where we're at, based on our bankroll, right? I talked about this a lot on the bankroll management episode, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but essentially, a unit for me can be $10, a unit for you can be $100, vice versa, whatever. But if somebody is up 10 units, that means that their unit size, whatever it is, that they profited 10 units, right? So if they were a $10 bettor, they're up $100. If they were $1,000 bettors, 1,000 times 10, they're up $10,000, right? I don't know why I skipped 100, but I skipped 100. 100 would be up $1,000, right? So units, just put it in a universal language, and it makes it clear about profits, because that's all we care about. I talked about straights versus parlays, right? You could have a losing record. I'm pretty sure during this last NFL season, at least for a stretch, I had a losing record, but I was up money because I hit a couple nice parlays, right? And again, that gets a little bit more complicated, and that's kind of a little bit more advanced to the next level. But that's all to say that record doesn't really mean anything, because or you let's say you're betting underdogs. Let's say you're betting things like Fairleigh Dickinson, right? Where they were probably plus 2,000. I'm just kind of making it up because I don't remember exactly what they were, right? Again, you bet 100 to win 2,000. Like that boosts you up so much more. So units, always record. If someone is just giving you the record and not giving you what their units are, scam. Right away, no, bad, red flag, right? Don't worry. I'm going to tell you so much more about all these potential red flags in a future episode. Again, I don't know if it's going to be next week or it might be the week after, so stay tuned, but that's going to be a fun one. I'm going to have to really load up on that one. All right, folks. Point number 3, last point we got today. And we're going to talk about transparency in the aspect from the sports books, right? Not from, how much money they're making and which is a gross amount, or, the odds they're kind of putting us against. But we're going to talk about it in terms of really what this boils down to is understanding what the hell you're actually betting on, right? Like what is actually going on by reading. Like literally it is reading comprehension. It is reading the fine print. And I promise you, I'm not a big reader. That's my wife. She's definitely the reader of the two. I prefer movies and sports. Right? So, but you got to take time to know what you're doing. Again, if you're gonna spend hard-earned money on something, do your due diligence. Take the time. All right, what am I talking about? So let's give you some examples here. So this is straight off FanDuel's website. Really, what I want to highlight is here. When we talk about something called play-through winnings. So you're always, the sports books are always going to make themselves seem nicer and better than they are, but clearly they took 10, almost 11 billion fucking dollars from people last year. They're not your friend, but they're always going to sound like they are. They're always going to make themselves seem better than they are, which is, it's part of the game. So they have these things, they have bonus bets, they'll give you free money, blah, blah, blah. But there's usually a stipulation that comes with it. And the stipulation is typically what we call a playthrough. And a playthrough means that in order to actually get the money out, you have to do what we call play through it. So basically you have to bet the money a certain amount of times before it's really yours. It's kind of like, it's really half yours. You can't really get it out until you play through it, right? So what are we talking about? Let's just read the example. So if you have something like a 5 times playthrough, right? So you get a $200 bonus. You have to bet up to $1,000 before you can unlock that money. What do they mean by unlocked? That money is theirs until you get through it up until $1,000. So you cannot it's not as simple as it sounds where it's like, oh, we give you $200. Use that $200 however you want, right? Even in a normal bonus bet situation, I bet the $200 on, let's say the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl at plus 100. That means, boom, I instantly win $200 and that money's mine. No, you have to bet this 5 times to even touch it, because they know the likelihood of you hitting 5 bets in a row or you getting, it right 5 times to get that money back is very unlikely. And that's the whole point. But again, they're going to make it sound like they're on your side. Hey, we're giving you free money. No, they're not. They're basically giving you like credit or like something you can only use at their store, at their sports book, and you gotta get it right 5 times to be able to call it yours. That's a big one. Playthrough is a big one. There's a lot of books that I don't, well, there's especially a couple years ago, and like there's still a decent amount of sports books popping up and like kind of new ones and stuff. You just got to be careful because a lot of those, especially the new player bonuses, like the initial promo bonuses that you get, which absolutely take advantage of. That is a great way to start yourself off on a good foot. Everyone in North Carolina should be taking advantage of all those multiple books and all those promo offers, but read the damn fine print. Understand what you're getting into so you don't find yourself in a situation like this where you think you're going to have this much money and you realize, shit, I got to do this 4 more times. I got to get this right 4 more times to be able to call this my money, right? That's the biggest things. But a lot of the books that have kind of came and gone, Some of these were very famous about like, oh, you're gonna get $1,000 in bonus bets or $2,000, but then they like slip in that 10 times playthrough or 5 times playthrough. Like it's a scam, right? It is absolutely a scam. It is about reading the fine print there, and it is annoying. Absolutely, I agree, but it's part of the game. It is absolutely part of the game. All right, we're gonna go through one other thing real quick, and again, this is not gonna be everything, man. The general like overview here, the big picture is read the fine print. If you're going to put hard-earned money on it, take the few seconds to read it. All right. So another example, right? This is DraftKings, which I'm a fan of DraftKings. It's mostly what I use. Let's talk about this, right? So let's talk about some of these parlay bonuses. So again, and I have to do this too. I have to make sure I read it because all this shit is always different. So 45% college hoops parlay profit boost. Get a 45% profit boost on any college hoops parlay. So, damn, up front, this sounds lit. Like this is a good deal. I get to basically any bet I want to make on college basketball this weekend, I get to just increase my odds with this bet. That's freaking awesome. Because it is. Honestly, I mean it's a good deal, right? So let's say I want to okay, well, hoops. So let's say I want to bet let's say I want to bet Purdue money line and I want to bet UConn money line, right? I want to play it safe. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay. So that would give me a parlay of, minus 256, but then with the 44% boost, that's going to boost that up pretty nicely. I'm going to get pretty good value for that, right? Well, that's where if you don't read the fine print, that promo is not even gonna pop up for you. Because if we look at the details here, and let me make sure you guys can see this. Let's see here. Let's see if I can zoom in for you guys. There we go. All right. Way we don't have to be squinting out here. So if you look here, minimum leg odds of minus 400 per leg. So when we go back, UConn's money line was minus 700 and something. This would automatically nullify me being able to use this, right? But I thought it said any parlay. Doesn't it say any college hoops parlay? No. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. There's always, always, always going to be stipulation because they know that once you get past this number, the odds start to turn in your favor. They don't like that to happen. They're in the business of making money, and that means taking our money, right? So this is just a small example. It talks about ineligible bets. Just make sure you kind of read through it. Like really, you don't got to read all that crap, but read through, what the details are, know what you're getting into. And this doesn't, I'm obviously talking about this in the context of bonus bets and things like that. But this is as simple. This is really with everything, right? As you start to get into some of these, especially if you start betting some things that you're not used to, right? 60-minute line. So say, hey, maybe I think I want to bet on the Rangers to just beat the Red Wings, but I go over here and I see, whoa, why are the Rangers to win plus 110? Why am I getting better odds here than when they're over here, right? Because this bet, your straight money line is for the Rangers to just win, period. Boom. But this bet means the Rangers have to win in regular time, excluding overtime. So if this goes to extra periods, if this goes to shootouts, if this goes to, anything past the 3 periods, the 60 minutes of action, you lose, right? I mean, sometimes it's very obvious because there's a draw. Like they literally give you a tie option, which I know is pretty big in soccer. I'm not a big soccer or hockey guy, so you'd have to ask another expert there. But just know what you're betting, like this one, right? So, I could bet Rangers money line or Red Wings money line. That's just to win the game at any time. I could bet for them to win during regulation, or I can bet for them to win during regulation, but if it goes to extra time, I get my money back at least, right? So it's just like it can be very confusing because it seems on the surface like 3 different bets for the Rangers to just win. But if the Rangers win in overtime, one of those bets hits and one of those bets does not. One of those bets is a loss and one of those bets is a push. So it is very different. You have to understand what you're betting on. Do not bet on things without fully understanding. That is why we talked about the spread, or in hockey, they call it the puck line, the total, over under, and the money line. That is where you want to live for at least the beginning part of your bets, because that is the most basic kind of, simple things that you can do. And you want to use the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid when you're first starting out. All right, folks. So, we're talking about transparency. That is the biggest key for today. Episode 6, all about transparency, because there is so little transparency when it comes to sports gambling. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It pisses me off because I know why people are doing it, because they're just trying to make more money off of you, because they're trying to manipulate you. They're trying to make themselves look better than they actually are, because a lot of these folks are phonies and they're just scam artists. But hey, if they're going to flaunt that bullshit, I'm going to call them out, and I'm going to keep trying to help people out and make sure that we understand that, hey, look for transparency. So we talked about, hey, I'm going to be transparent right now. Odds are stacked against you. Vegas and sportsbooks made almost $11 billion because of people thinking that they're better than they can beat the system, that they're going to be the ones that's different because they're not going to take the time to learn the basics, and they're just going to flaunt and do whatever the hell they want, and boom, they're going to lose money. You have to be hitting it at least 52.4% to at least break even, and only 2 to 5% of sports bettors are profitable long term. Odds are against us. I'm being transparent. Now, next level of transparency, sports cappers. Most of the time, there are some good ones out there. So that's absolutely awesome. That's the ones you want to be following. That's the ones that, if you are going to pay for picks, which we'll talk about that later, about is it worth it, is it not? Those are the ones you want. The ones that are transparent, right? The ones that will show their losses, because everybody loses. It is statistically 100%. If you sports gamble, you lose some bets, and that's okay. It's part of the game. But reporting their units won, their profit units won or lost, as opposed to their record. If they just give you their record, they're just trying to blow smoke up your ass. Point blank, period. And then finally, number 3, sportsbook transparency. Read the damn fine print. Understand what you're getting into, because they're going to make it sound better than it is. They're going to overcomplicate it because it's a business model. They're trying to get as much money out of you as possible. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, we're being your friends. We're giving you all these bonuses. We're hooking you up. Oh man. What really pisses me off is the ones where they're promoting someone famous. They say picks some people, so they're gonna like put you in a pre-package. They're like, oh, bet with Tom Brady, bet with fucking whoever, Queen Latifah, whoever the hell they're throwing at you, right? Don't do those, man. They're promoting that shit for a reason. Do not fall for these traps. But make sure we're reading. Make sure we're actually cutting through that, getting to that transparency. That's where a lot of this falls on us. That's why so many people lose, because they don't take those extra steps, whether it's to learn the basics or to just take the discipline. Take the extra steps, because if not, it's going to cause you to lose money. It is not worth. You work too damn hard to lose this money over some bullshit, over some semantics, over some fine print. Read the damn thing, understand what you're getting into, and understand if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. All right, folks, that is transparency. I hope I was really pretty fucking transparent today. I apologize to not keep it super family friendly. I usually try to cut down on the cursing, but it was a good day. Whiskey started flowing a little bit early today. So, all right, folks, as always, I appreciate you. If you took this journey with me today, my fellow DJs, I appreciate you listening to me ramble on here. The true intent of this is to try to help somebody. Hey, man, if I help one person, 2 people, I'm happy, right? Because at the end of the day, Vegas does not need any more of our hard-earned money, okay? It's about damn time that we started fighting back, and we started knocking their heads. How about if we start making a profit off them, right? Start profiting off them, because I promise you, there's going to be enough dumb Joe Schmoes out there that are going to just keep blowing money and not doing it. Don't let that be you. You work too damn hard. You now understand you are starting to get the tools to have a fighting chance. Set yourself up for success. Give yourself a chance. So if you appreciated anything I said, I would very much appreciate, like, subscribe. IDP guys, obviously we're talking betting. They're kind of getting newer into the betting space. I'll be doing stuff about them. Mainly football, if anything football, offense, defense, linemen, we're talking about it. I promise you. I just started an NFL injury, so DGen doc. Why am I DGen doc? Well, yes, because I have my doctorate in physical therapy. That's what I do, my daytime job. I'm a health professional. So if you want to hear me talk football injuries, I just launched a new series going through all the major NFL injuries heading into this season and how it's going to help shape the landscape of next season. So go ahead, like, subscribe, comment. Again, if you have something you want to learn more about when it comes to betting and like, hey, how do I improve this area? How do I better understand? I will absolutely love to make a video about it, because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is help y'all and screw over Vegas. That's it. End of the day, point blank. Hey, I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We got March Madness coming up. The UFL, if you haven't checked that out, I'm telling you, there's money to be made in the UFL. I promise you that. Football is back, baby. But other than that, I appreciate y'all. Have a great week. And Doc is out of here.